What is going on, everybody? Mr. Thrasha here, and welcome to museum season here on the Mr. Thrasha channel. We're doing some channel updates today, talking about future plans. Gonna grab a coffee here at Honey Coffee, and we're gonna go over the Great Fire of 1870. So they're still going with the gingerbread lattes. They actually still had pumpkin spice in there, but okay, I've moved on from that. But all right, let's go for the classic coffee test here. Here we go. Flip the camera around. As I said, it is museum season here on the channel. Best thing to do in the winter. There will be filming locations and stuff still to come, but we will be hitting some museums. And today, like I said, I'm gonna hit up the Goulbourn Museum and a couple things up here and go over the Great Fire of 1870. Over here before we make our way over to the Goulbourn Museum, talk more about the fire of 1870. Let's stop here at the Village Bank. Frame house built in the years after the railway came to Stittsville in 1870. By 1885, Thomas Morgan operated a general store here in this building. The building was purchased by the Union Bank in 1918, which became part of the Royal Bank in 1925, and the bank stayed at this location until '68, when it built its own building, but the original vaults and bank doors are still in use here. It's been many businesses since it was a bank, but let's go in there and see if we can check out these vaults. Pretty interesting. A little bit of history right here. Look at that. This is the old bank vault for the town right here. It's now where they keep the flowers. It's an old J&J Taylor Limited. Wow, very cool. Look at the size of this door. Look at that. This lady was just telling me who works here. I mean, they couldn't just take it out of here. So now the flowers stay in there. Pretty cool. And here's the teller cage over here. That's awesome that they keep that here. In fact, there's even to the right of the teller cage, there's some old photos here when it was the old Union Bank of Canada right there, and one up there. I've been let into the basement where there's another vault. I don't know where to find it. She won't come down with me, which is kind of oh, okay, there it is. Wow, that's cool. Wow, another vault down here in the basement. Wow, another J&J Taylor. That is cool. Okay, cool and creepy. Look at that. Another vault door there, where they just store things that aren't on display and stuff now. A lot of stuff in here, but she said she won't come down. A little creepy down here. It's cool. Grinch over there. Look at that, though. We stepped right into the vault. That's cool. Wow. Very interesting. That's almost cooler than the one upstairs. Wow. You can hear her above me here. Gotta get out of here before some ghosts hold me captive down here. It's just sharing with me this book. Maybe one reason she doesn't want to go in the basement. True Tales from around here. Be quite the interesting read. Oh, there's the cemetery I've covered right there. Carlton Cathcart's buried. So we're gonna head over to the Goulbourn Museum and check that out. But pretty cool to check out the vault both in the basement and this one here. Old teller cage right there. Yeah, it's a great place to come for flowers or trinkets for your significant other. Okay, so we're just up here where the old railway station was. Old Stittsville Station. And the Great Fire of 1870, on August 17th, 1870, village of Stittsville was wiped out by a fire which destroyed thousands of acres of trees, farmland, and houses in Carleton County. Killed 12 people, 2 of them here in Goulbourn Township. Stittsville at the time was a settlement of about 100 people located around the crossroads of present-day Carp Road and Neil Avenue, which is just up that way. Fire started from burning brush near the new Central Canada Railway line between Elmont and Pakenham, which is out that way. And we're going to be heading that way here momentarily. Extremely dry conditions plus a high wind which built up to gale force throughout the day caused a sea of flame and smoke to roll over the countryside in a swath 18 kilometers wide, leaving burnt houses, animals, trees, farmland in its wake. Stittsville rebuilt itself 1.6 kilometers to the south around the new railway track and station. The former village site eventually became known as Old Stittsville. I showed it many times before, but here is the old Stittsville station. Or it was at one point. The tracks used to come right through town here around the time of 1870 in Village Square Park. This is actually an old railway relic right there. A young girl lost her life right there back in the year 1900. They say her ghost still haunts this area. Again, I've told tales on that before, but just coming over here before we head over to the Goulbourn Museum here, talk about more of the Great Fire of 1870. Some old Stittsville maps. Lanterns that lit the railways were part of the railway. It's crazy to think about. And here's the station there across the way. Frequently used by groups and organizations to travel to events in surrounding areas. Look at this, it's an old train tie. An actual railway tie. Railway spike. Also known as a cut spike or a crampon. Used to secure the rails and base plates to railroad ties on the track. Here's some shots here of the station right across the way that we were just standing at back in the day when the train would come through. So they got their mail. That's pretty neat. Workers of the railway. Pretty cool that they've set this up. I really like the old photos and stuff of the railway station there. Very cool. Pretty chilly out here. I'm gonna head up to the Goulbourn Museum where we can go over some more of the fire of 1870, the Great Fire, some of the facts, stories surrounding that. Yeah, 3-story red brick building at the corner of Abbott and Main. George Green purchased, that's it right there, the Butler Hotel. This is a pretty cool photo here. This is it right here when it was a general store. Right there, Bradley's General Store, circa 1930s, first built in the 1870s. The store was located south of the Trans-Canada until it burned down in 2013. Look closely and you will see the very first gas pump in Stittsville. Wow, okay, yeah, that's wild. Pump was installed in the early 1920s in response to the increased popularity of motor vehicles. It's an old Ontario license plate right there. The demise of the train. This image shows the last transcontinental train to pass through Stittsville on January 14th, 1990. Now we've pushed our way up the road to the Goulbourn Museum, sharing the story of Ottawa's oldest military settlement. Look, they got this Christmas sleigh out here on top of this hay. It's a cool little sleigh. Hey, hey, it's a sleigh. All right, I'm gonna head into the Goulbourn Museum and we can learn more about the Great Fire of 1870 and some other stuff as well. On what used to be Township Hall. It's a museum now, but this used to be Township Hall. Stanley's Corners, which is this area right here. These corners, these are Stanley Corners. Stanley's Corners, known for its role as the center of municipal business. The original log Township Hall was built on land belonging to Carlton Cathcart, who we covered recently. Okay, already learning. It was the township clerk. Okay, it later burned down during a fire on the Cathcart property. In 1872, the new hall was built here. The wood frame building was expanded and covered in cement blocks after 1915, when Jonathan Stanley opened his cement factory across the street. Just over there, we see some smoke rising there. Through the years, this building became a place for many happy gatherings. There are memories of plaster falling from the ceiling as the hall shook with music and dancing. On July 8th, 1990, the Goulbourn Museum opened up inside Goulbourn Township Hall. There we go. The gain entry here into the Goulbourn Museum. Lots of artifacts and cool things to go over in here. But we'll continue on here with the Great Fire of 1870, facing the Inferno. In 1870, for the residents of Goulbourn Township, fire was a routine part of life. It was a tool used to clear land and the only source of heat and light. People had a close relationship with fire and understood its dangers. The Great Fire began in 1870, August 1870, as stated earlier, after a summer of terrible drought, very similar to what California has been experiencing. Hot temperatures and air dried the swamps, forests, and farmland. When the fire began to spread, it was unstoppable. Structures made of local cedar and eastern white pine, full of extremely flammable sap, only fed the flames. The fire spread through what is now Greater Ottawa and across the river into Quebec. In total, more than 200 square miles of area burned. 2,000 people lost their homes, and 12 to 20 people died. The Great Fire was a disaster unlike any seen in this area before. Many people describe the Great Fire in diaries and letters to loved ones. This would not only be overwhelming in an emotional way, but the senses would have also been overwhelmed. Here's a wool blanket. People tried to escape the fire by running to Pool Creek and covering themselves in wet wool blankets. This is burned cedar wood. Cedar has thick bark, it's lightweight, and has a high sap content. These cedar pine needles. Houses were made with cedar as the wood was accessible. This contributed to the disaster because both cedar and pine produced sap that accelerated the flames, a lot like the winds currently out in Los Angeles. Some buttons down here. Fire. This is ceramic. Fields were scattered with furniture, dishes, and tools abandoned by families fleeing the fire. That's ceramic right there. Melted metal, tools at ground level. It was estimated that the temperature reached more than 500 degrees Celsius. That is hot enough to melt lead. Many residents fled to water to protect themselves. Some hid in wells or in creeks to escape the fire. When the high winds started roaring, the conditions in the weeks leading up to the fire made the area drier. High wind is also why the small controlled fires got out of control, causing the fire to spread over a wide distance. Wind and fire. And of course this is the crackling fire. Sound of crackling fire. Terrifying experience to deal with wildfires like that. After the fire, all that was left was burned land and ash, where buildings and trees once stood. Animals that survived wandered without fences to contain them. Fields were scattered with furniture, dishes, and tools abandoned by families feeling the fire. In Goulbourn, the 30 buildings that made up Stittsville were destroyed. Reconstruction began immediately. Residents quickly built shelter for the winter, and 1 mile south, a new railway line to Ottawa was completed. In 1871, construction began on a new village centered along the railway with local trees at a shortage. The newer style of frame building replaced log structures. This area became known as Stittsville, while the original village destroyed by the fire was called Old Stittsville. This is a pretty cool setup over here. Got a village general store. Like that, it's neat. Step into the general store, shall we? Fruit. Got some potatoes. God, those farmers had some potatoes to live off of after those fires. Money orders. Like the cage we saw at the bank. Another safe here, another J&J Taylor. J&J Taylor, just like those bank vaults. Look at that, based out of Toronto. Safe works. Or if we can actually open this safe. Maybe not. Look at that though. That's cool. G'day. Welcome to the general store. Come on up to the cage here. Finally achieved my lifelong dream. That's right, I got me a part-time job at the general store. Got the bell there. Fruit, some mushrooms, strawberries and cherries. The eggs in there. Come back behind the desk, you got these old cans of fruit salad and soup. Wow. Lemon syrup, sugar. Down here you got the flour. Got some fish and lobster. Look at all this stuff. Yeast. I love looking at old things like this. Love museums. Look at that. Chocolate delights. Look at this. Wow, those are old. Bag bomb. There's an old canister of coffee. That Watkins mustard. Oh, then you got these. Very cool. Corn seed. Of course, bread. Tomatoes. Milk. Everything you'd find at your local general store way back when. Would even be where you get your mail. We'll get their mail here. I got some mail in here. Wow. It's pretty cool. I love little setups like this. Yeah, that would have been cool. Be the man who runs the general store. Hat or some jewelry. Well, you'd find that at the general store as well. She want a pearl necklace. Pearl necklace. Wow. It's like an ambulance or something. You got the hats, coin purses. I could go with a top hat. I could rock a top hat. They've done to this window. Isn't that neat? Similar to what our newspaper, still called the Ottawa Citizen today, looked like back in the day. Wow, August 24th, 1870. Still the heavens are as brass, and the rain which so many are imploring Providence to bestow upon the parched and burning earth has not fallen. Oh, my heart goes out to everybody in California right now. Lanark County near Elmont, Canada Central Railway laborers called the Bull Gang, clearing land by setting fire to brush along the railway. The wind began to blow from the south, spreading the brush and all the fires into the forest north of the track. Historians believe that this was the start of the Great Fire. Obviously the orange there tells you where the fire was spreading. The Carp River, Old Stittsville, Fitzroy and Huntley townships. The fire raced through Huntley and Fitzroy townships, pushed by strong winds. The advancing flames were 6 to 8 kilometers wide. Fire was so hot and the winds were so strong that the trees blew out of the ground and the topsoil burned away. Quick change of the wind made the fire move east. By midday on August 17th, Stittsville was in danger. The wind was blowing 100 miles an hour and fire was moving at the speed of a trotting horse. The settlers needed to act fast. Some fled to the green crops, covering themselves in soil and wet blankets, while others took shelter in wells, creeks, and along the Carp River, as mentioned earlier. Actual dress worn. Back back in the 1800s. The Harton family of Goulbourn experienced great loss during the fire. When the fire reached the family home, Miss Margaret Harton looked after the children as the men fought the flames. To protect the children, she covered them in wet blankets and hid them in the well. With her home in danger, she rushed back to the house to retrieve a clock, a family treasure brought from Ireland. Mrs. Harton was last seen on her way to Pool Creek. She died searching for the safety from the flames and was found with the clock beside her. Interesting artifacts. The first electric toaster, invented in Scotland in 1893 as a way to automate and speed up the process of toasting. Popularized in the early 1900s as more efficient and safe heating filaments were developed. Look at that. That is a toaster from 1893. Wow. Got an old horseshoe here, used since the Roman Empire. Protect horse hooves from wear on rough surfaces. Wow. A glass insulator. So that is a Brookfield glass insulator. First telegraph message transmitted in Canada was sent from Toronto to Hamilton on December 19th, 1846. Thousands of kilometers of telegraph wire was installed along existing rail lines, which is where the first glass insulators would have been found. Die-cast miniature right there. Look how tiny that is. Die-cast miniature commemorating the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, made in '53 by the British die-casting company Leslie Products. The history of Matchbox miniatures began when Leslie Products co-owner Jack Odell set out to create a toy for his daughter Anne. This is a stereoscope. In 1838, a British scientist discovered that he could make three-dimensional images by placing two images taken from slightly different perspectives side by side. When it was produced to hold the printed views, it exploded in popularity. You look through it right there. I really like this ice cream scoop. Alfred Krall was an African-American businessman and inventor known for inventing the ice cream scoop. Alfred Krall invented the ice cream scoop. Made over a decade later, this example from the museum's collection closely resembles Krall's original scoop. That's cool. This is a creamer device used to make cream with specific butter fat levels. To use it, you would melt unsalted butter and milk in a pot, then pour the mixture into the upper bowl made of Bakelite, an early type of plastic. Pumping the handle up and down would emulsify the mixture, and the cream was then collected in the lower glass container. Yeah, I love that ice cream scoop. Our facts here from the Great Fire of 1870. When you are in the countryside around Goulbourn, look for old wooden fences made of cedar logs. These fences were very common. In the 1800s, fire spread from house to house quickly along these fences. It was like a road for the fire to travel on. Firefighting looked very different in 1870. Instead of fire hydrants and hoses, they were bucket brigades. A line of people passed buckets of water from one to another to put out a fire. First few days after the fire, farmers survived by eating roasted potatoes straight from the garden. Known locally as Carlton Blazers, had its headquarters in Bell's Corners. As the fire burned through Bell's Corners, it engulfed the Agriculture Hall, where the battalion stored their guns and ammunition, causing a massive explosion. Dang. Fire truly left its mark that summer. If you dig in the areas where the fires burned, you can still see a line of black. Archaeologists can date artifacts by this line. Over here is known as Gunter's chain. Wow, look at this device. Gunter's chain was used to measure property in the early settlement, made of 100 links of chain connected by 3 rings with brass handles at either end. Oh, that's interesting. Supplied for survival. To help settlers establish themselves, each person was given supplies. However, these provisions were very basic. Every 5 families was also given a crosscut saw, a whip saw, and a grindstone to share. And each village was supplied with 2 sets of blacksmith tools and 2 sets of carpentry tools. Here we have a shovel, an axe, draw knife. There's a end of a shovel there. Whetstone. Wow. Right there in the back left corner there. Those are just nails. And there's the whetstone down there. The lights on. Over here is a reproduction of a private uniform. Many of the colonial settlers in this area were former soldiers from the War of 1812, and most of the soldiers were part of the 99th and 100th Regiment of Foot, recruited from Dublin, Ireland. For sale here at the museum. Necklaces, those are $20. It's a pocket watch. Interesting, only $15. That's a pretty well-priced pocket watch. Got some pins here representing villages in the area. They make up Goulbourn, Hazeldean, Richmond, Munster, Ashton, of course Stittsville. Some beer glasses here. Check it out. Some Goulbourn Museum campfire mugs. However, I'm going to grab a soda before I leave. I'm going to get one of these Harvey and Vern's classic sodas. Tried the cream soda and the root beer before, craft cola. I think I'm actually going to try one of these ginger beers. So I'm going to head out now and check out the cemetery behind the museum. Just grabbed a ginger beer. I've yet to try it. Harvey and Vern's. I had the cream soda, like I said, and the root beer, but I have not tried the ginger beer, so I'm going to give that a shot. Was also gifted this tote bag. It's Goulbourn Museum old-fashioned Christmas tote bag. Definitely make use of that. The Irish settlers of Goulbourn Township had different names for this area, but most common was Struggle Town. The roads were poor, the trees were thick, and the land was a mixture of swamp, soil, and bare rock. Settlers had the hard task living on the land they were given. Yeah, right in this area. This thing here almost looks like it could lead down to a bomb shelter from back in the day. Just a couple things to be found over here. Here at what was Stanley's Corners. Look at this old wagon. This old sleigh. Ooh, that's old. An old relic. Formerly Rathwell's Corners. The building here stood just over there. Independent cheese and butter factory at Stanley's Corners in the year 1900. Back when that girl was cut in half, that was just right there when that stood. And the hotel, which became Stanley's General Store and Post Office. Pretty cool. That all would have stood right here on what is now known as Stanley's Corners.
I'm a logger. Logging. Help me do some logging. My grandpappy taught me logging. And here's Pappy for him. Me and my little fox here. Me and Mr. Fox. Always logging. Might get to some logging right now.
And here's that thing on the church. The land next to the museum was the first location of St. Thomas Anglican Church, built in 1866. Church was right here, right in front of where the cemetery is. First service held at St. Thomas was on October 25th, 1866. For almost 100 years, the church was located on Stanley's Corners right here. On June 26, 1964, lightning struck the steeple and the church was destroyed by fire. Several items were saved from the church during the fire, including the stained glass windows. These items are now at the new location of St. Thomas on Stittsville, Maine, which I've also covered many times. Enter the cemetery through the gate. Please respect the residents and the grounds of the cemetery. We will do that. We are going to do that. Lots of cool stuff to look at inside there. I really enjoy that. I love museums. Museum season here on the channel. Okay, so I did say we're going to be doing a channel update as well today. So I'm just going to take a walk around this cemetery here and go over some of my plans for 2025. Still have my gingerbread latte here. All right, nothing in particular I wanted to take a look at in here, so just going to update the channel, give you my plans for 2025, and go over a couple things as we finish out the video. I figure by now, if you're still watching, then you watch regularly, so you're the people I'm trying to talk to. I spent pretty much the majority of the year last year doing content from the road. Florida, Carolina, California. This is a really nice stone here. Till we meet again. However, because I spent so much time last year covering things from the road and so much time away from home and away from the dog, I'm gonna do more of that for the first half of the year here. More stuff like this around town, because I've kind of been avoiding that for the majority of the past 2 years, but definitely throughout last year. Anybody who wants to come up here and visit, come sit for a while. I have come to find that YouTube in general can be quite the toxic environment. Very hard to please everybody. Views for everybody are down. No matter how big the YouTuber is, everybody's views are down. And this is definitely a niche type of content. I do not want to cover things that I've covered 1,000 times before. You know, things around here aren't really covered by very many people next to me, so I would like to cover more of stuff like this, whether people are interested or not. So I'm pretty much coming to the conclusion that I'm going to do what I do whether people care or not. So whether people are watching or not, the content will continue. But if I feel like taking a few days off, then I'm going to do that. It's an Irish blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your sweet face, and the rain fall soft upon your fields. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. There's another calf cart over here. So things will be going on. There will be more filming locations and stuff like that, but it is museum season here on the channel. But like I said, if I come to the point where I just feel burned out and I need to spend more time with my dog, because especially of the view counts on all YouTubers' channels, if I want to take a few days off and not upload anything, I'm going to do that. And as far as getting back out onto the road, well, just as far as it's looking right now, and things may change between now and then, I'm looking at May. I'm going to be doing a big tour come May, a big Western tour. So I'll be doing a lot of planning at home in the meantime over the next few months as we're covering some museums. Like I said, there'll still be some filming locations and really exciting projects in the works leading up to May, but I'm not holding myself to anything, you know? If I want to just take it easy for a few days, as I said, focus on my health and my dog. That's very important. I didn't pay very much attention to my health last year, so I definitely want to get back in the health kick, into the health kick. No rhyme or reason to this cemetery walk here. I just thought it would be an interesting spot to end the video. I've never walked this cemetery this time of year. I like this monument here. Gone from our home, but not from our hearts. This is a really beautiful monument. There's an anchor there on that side. George McCaffrey died 1888 at age 42. Some huge monuments too. Pretty old cemetery. If people want to give up that support system, they can do that on their own accord. That really just frees up my time to do other things. So let it be known, when things go silent, or say there's videos posted by other content creators that say I've done things I've already mastered, I don't really have any interest in watching that stuff. It's something that, say, I covered 2 years prior. Now, what do I have to learn from that? And I've been really shimmying up everything on my Instagram and everything. I'm sick of, I kind of get a headache from just filtering through all the nonsense from people that I don't actually know, who aren't actually friends or actual acquaintances, or who don't support anything I do whatsoever. I'm wondering why I'm even scrolling by their posts. You see what I mean? So, starting to basically mute these individuals. Just mute them, move on. You gotta move on. Best to go with the flow. Go with the flow. Put up barriers to keep oneself intact. The words of Geddy Lee. One must put up barriers to keep oneself intact. This cemetery goes all the way back to the forest here. So I appreciate you, all of you who watch on a regular basis. I depend on you and I love you. And your support, especially be it unwavering, does not go unnoticed. Please like, please subscribe. If you're new here, that's going to let you know when a new episode goes up. Never know what you may be missing here on the Mr. Thrasha Show. Just getting some feelings out. Updating you on what's going to be happening. And ending over here at the St. Thomas Urn Garden, circa 1998. Come to me and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. Rest eternal grant until them, O Lord, and let light perpetual shine upon them. Much to come. And pay attention to the lives too. Pay attention to those wacky lives. Much more of those to come. Yeah, I really kind of got to end here. Let's find this sword thing in front of this Tilger grave. Kurt F. Tilger. Wait. Kurt? 80s life? That means the Kurt Crucial I was talking to was his ghost.